In this video, we're going to be taking a look on the information that's on pages Access 6 and 7, in which we're going to create a database. Now, you can create a database using an Access template, which is a sample database provided within the Microsoft Access program, or you can start with a blank database to create a database from scratch. Your decision depends on whether Access has a template that closely resembles the type of data you plan to manage. If it does, building your own database from a template might be faster than creating a database from scratch. Regardless of which method you use, you can always modify the database later, tailoring it to meet your specific needs. So let's take a look now at the steps on page Access 6. The first thing it tells us is that we want to start up Access. Now, if there's not an Access icon on your desktop that looks like this right here, you can see where my mouse pointer is at, moving around. It has a little icon that has an A there. You can go down to your Start button, which is in the lower left-hand side. Then go to the All Programs, and then you'll need to go to the Microsoft Office 2013. And then from there, you can open up Access 2013. Now, similar to as we've seen in the last video, this is where we're going to be opening up or creating a blank desktop. So step 2 tells us that we want to click on the blank desktop database icon, which is this one right here. So when we click on this, notice that the very first thing that happens is that the blank desktop database pops up a little window for us, and it's going to ask us what name do we want to save this as. So we want to save this as Quest. That's going to be the file name that we want to save it as. And then of course we want to change the location of this file. Now, by default, most of the time it's going to save it into your My Documents. If that's okay for you, that's fine. However, if you want to change the location, you have to click on this little folder here, which is going to open up the File New Database, which kind of is similar to the Save As window here. And then you can save it to whatever location you're wanting to save it in. Such as if I want to save this onto my desktop, I can just say, save it to the desktop, and OK. But make sure that you do save it either to your documents or to your home directory. Once you've got to the location of where you want to save this as, go ahead and click on OK, and then of course you'll notice that the file name will change and the location will change to where you want to save it as, and then you want to click on the Create button. Now here, a new blank database file with a single table named Table 1 has been created. Now, although you might be tempted to start entering data into the table, a better way to build a table is to first define the columns or fields of data that the table will store. Now, there is a view called the Table Design view that provides the most options for defining fields. Now, of course, where it says click to add, and we see where it says ID here, this is each of these columns is called a field. That's on there. So this would be the ID field, and if we wanted to add more fields, we could just click here and start typing in. However, that's a simple view of doing this, but as we just I've just told you on there, that the Table Design view provides you the most options for defining the fields. So if we take a look on step 3, it tells us that we want to click on the View button on the Fields tab. So notice that since we're in the Tables tool, which the Tables tools is right here, and our Fields tab is already selected, right here is our Design view, or our View button that's there. And of course, if we click on the bottom half of that, we see that we have Data Sheet View, which is currently what we're in, and then we have Design View. And we want to click on Design View. Now, the first thing that it's going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you to go ahead and save your table. We want to save this table as Customers. That way, so that we can give our table name a specific name. Now, this is not going to change the file name of Quest that we gave it a little bit earlier. This is just saving the table name. Notice that when we saved it as Customers, take a look at the name of the table here. It's now named Customers. That's on there. Now we are positioned in the Table Design view, which is a window that you use to name and define the fields of a table. Now, Access created a field named ID with an auto-numbered data type. And of course, when we're talking about data types is significant characteristics of a field because it determines what type of data the field can store, such as either text, dates, or numbers. And of course, if you take a look on page Access 7, you will see several different types of data types that's on there. And if we actually go ahead and click on where it says data types here's a drop-down list that has the different names of it. First we have short text, and of course this is text or numbers that is not used in any calculations, maybe such as a name, zip code, or phone number. Long text is lengthy text that is generally greater than 255 characters, and generally that's where you make your comments or notes. We do have numbers here, and that is numeric data that can be used in calculations, such as maybe quantities. Of course, we have date and time, which is going to allow you to input in a date or time. With currency, this allows us to put in monetary values, such as dollar amounts. Auto number, which is what it's by default on this one, is going to give us automatically numbered sequences that's on there. So it's sequential integers that's controlled by Access, and you can't change those. So the first field's going to be number 1, the second field's going to be number 2, and so forth. And you can't make those changes once it automatically numbers it. And then of course we have the yes, no, and of course that allows us to either answer yes or no. That only gives us 2 values. We do have OLE objects, which is what we call object linking and embedding objects, and this is where we can put in such things as Excel spreadsheets or Word documents. Hyperlinks are on here, and this is where we could either put in web or email addresses. We can also add attachments, and that could be such things as maybe JPEG images, spreadsheets, and other documents. Very similar to OLE objects, but it allows us a little bit more than just as instead of linking and embedding objects on there, this just allows it to act as an attachment. We also have calculated on there as well, and this is of course the result of a calculation based on other fields in the table. And of course you have to set that up to make it do the proper calculation. And then finally we have the Lookup Wizard on there, and of course this helps you to set lookup properties, which displays a drop-down list of values for the field. Now after using the Lookup Wizard, the final data type for the field is either short text or number, depending on the values in the drop-down list. So that kind of allows you to utilize a wizard to help you to determine which one you need to use. That's on there as well. So once we take a look at this on there, and we see that there's these different options that's there, we need to go through here, and it tells us that we now need to go through and type customer or CUST ID, and we're going to rename this ID field. So we need to go right before the ID and type in CUST, and then make it say CUST ID. Once we have that, we can press our down key on our keyboard, and this will allow us to move to the first blank field name. Of course, the field name, that's going to be the name that's going to be on top of the field or the top of the column that's there. Here, the next one we're going to put is first name. Now, one thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't generally use spaces in the field names. That's on there. That's kind of a general rule of thumb that's on there when you're creating Access databases, is that like where you see first name on here, there's not a space between first and name. It just makes things a little bit easier to use. Next, we're going to hit our down arrow key, and we're going to type in last name. And press our down arrow key, and we're going to type in phone. So you can see we're adding in our different fields here. Finally, we're going to press our down arrow key, and we're going to type in birthday. And then we're going to press our down arrow key to go down to the next one. Now, of course, you need to make sure that to separate the first and last names into 2 separate fields so that you can easily sort, find, and filter either part of the name later on. Now, the birth date field will only contain dates. So really, we should change its data type from short text, which is the default data type, to date and time. And to do that, we'll move on to step 5, which is where we're going to click on the short text in the birthday row. So if we go over here and we click on this drop down list arrow here, we're going to go down to date and time, as we've seen just a little bit earlier. Now, with these 5 fields properly defined for the new customer table, you're ready to enter data. And of course it should be CUSTID for an auto number data type, first name short text, last name short text, phone short text, and birth date, date and time. When you have all those ready, you're ready to input in your information that's on there. Now to do this, we need to switch back to the datasheet view to enter or edit our data, because we can't do that from here. This is just allowing us to set up our table. Now of course the datasheet view is our spreadsheet-like view of the data in the table. And of course a datasheet is a grid that displays fields as columns and records as rows. And of course the new field names you have just defined are going to be listed at the top of each row on there. So to switch back to the datasheet view, we take a look at step 6. And this tells us that we want to click on our view button here, and we want to go back to datasheet view. Right off the bat, do we want to save our table? Now once again, anytime you have design changes, it's going to ask you to save it. And in this case, yes, we do want to save it. And then of course now you'll notice there is the fields that you've just created, in addition to the click to add. And of course that click to add is always going to be generally one of the last fields that's on there, in case if you wanted to add a field inside of the spreadsheet or the datasheet view that's on there. So next what we're going to do is that we're going to press our tab key. Now on the auto number you cannot change that. When it says in parentheses new, you could try to type in there, but as you probably heard, it's making just a little kind of notification sound saying, hey, I can't be changed, because that's going to automatically number it. So we need to hit our tab key, and of course tab key will go to the cell that's directly to the right of where you were previously at. That's on there. And this gets us to the first name field. And this is where you need to type in your first name. So I'm going to type in my first name here. This is Jeff. And of course you'll now notice that the customer ID has changed from new to 1, because now it's given an automatic number of number 1. When we press our tab key to move to the last name field, you need to input in your last name. And so I'm going to input in Irwin. I'm going to press the tab key again, and this is the phone number field. And we're going to use the phone number of 111-222-3333. So we're putting it in a proper phone number format. We press our tab key, and birth date is going to be 1/32 of 1980. And you might be saying, hold on there, wait a minute, what's going on? 1/32, that's not a date. Let's see if Access will accept it. If we hit our tab key, note that it pops up a little error box and it tells us that the value we entered does not match the date and time for this column that's on there. Because 1/32 is not a valid date. So it's not going to allow us to make this entry, and it displays this error message, as you see here. Now this shows that selecting the best data type for each field in the table design is very important before you're entering in your data, because this helps prevent any data errors that's on there. So to delete out our last change, which in this case is the birthday, we can actually just hit our escape key on there, and then of course that's going to remove the error message, and then we can edit the record. So instead of saying 1/32, we're going to make it say 1/31 of 1980, and then we're going to press our tab key. So now you've completed and input in your first record. Now we need to go through and enter 2 more sample records using some kind of realistic data that's on there. And of course you want to make sure that you right click the Customers Table tab and click Close to close the Customers Table. So let's say for an example we want to input in some more information. Once again, can't put anything in the customer's ID, so let's say that we're going to put in Mr. Fairchild. So I can put Leyland Fairchild. His phone number, we'll just have it one number off, so we're going to go 111-333-4444. And we're going to have his birth date at 2/1/1980. And then, of course, choose somebody else. You can choose another name that's on there. It doesn't really matter. You know, I'll just put in Chuck Norris. And of course, we'll just put in for a different phone number. And we'll put his birth date on there. It's 4/15. We'll just say 1960 on there. So this just allows you and shows you how to input in information. It's very easy and very simple to use. Now, when you are ready to close down your customers table, once you've input in your 3 customers, you need to right-click the customers table on there, or excuse me, right-click the customers tab, not in the navigation area, but you need to right-click on the customers tab, and then you can click on close. And of course, that's going to close down the customers table, and of course, our work area here is now going to be clear, ready for you to open up another object. Now that concludes the information that's on pages Access 6 and 7. In the next video, we're going to be creating a table on here, so we'll be using our same file. So just keep open this file and you're ready to move on to the next video.